Hello and welcome to For Your Journey. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Travis.
And today we'll be talking about oneness.
So oftentimes the word oneness is kind of synonymous with unity. And for the purpose of today's discussion, we're going to kind of treat those as the same, unity and oneness, and kind of contrast it with uniformity and conformity. Kind of have those two different camps and what the difference between those are. Recently, in the last probably year or two, there was an article in the Vision newsletter for the USA district about kind of the choir dress changing, being a little bit more flexible in regards to, before when it may have been only black and white. Now there's a little bit more flexibility with that, and that would be kind of an example of uniformity, something that's uniform.
Well, it was a uniform.
It's a uniform,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And for the sake of highlighting unity and oneness, wanting to focus more not necessarily on the expression that is visible, like black and white, but the purpose of why anyone's even in the choir, which is worship, focusing and on the purpose and uniting and being in one that way.
Yeah, well, it's kind of removing some of the uniformity. Mm-hmm. It draws attention to, it forces you to pay attention to the unity aspect,
right?
The centrality of purpose, that everybody's in the same thing. And what that shows then is that there can be different aspects of diversity within oneness, that we can all wear a different color.
Yeah.
Imagine that. We could wear a different color and we could really have that same kind of unity of purpose or even more unity of purpose. Mm-hmm. But then that doesn't even just go down to clothing, but to all different aspects of diversity.
Right.
You could have ethnic diversity or geographic diversity, all things that we see within the church and God's kingdom.
Right. God's a diverse God, but he's always God, and he's always one, and he's always whole. But he's also diverse even in the fact of the Trinity, having different persons of the Godhead.
Right. He's multiple persons, multiple persons in one God.
Right. And looking around at creation, and you can see a field of wildflowers. Like he creates diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where that's kind of most significant, I would say, for the church is that there's a diversity of gifts, and I think that's really key. Right. Because without that diversity of gifts, then you don't have this kind of collective body that's able to accomplish what it needs to as the church, because the church has some big tasks in front of it.
Absolutely. I have a verse on that, very popular verse that has that exact phrase out of 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4. There are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit.
Just what I was thinking.
Just same thing. almost verbatim.
Right.
Yeah. And these gifts and personalities even and people's passions, they kind of work together, and that's another example that's often used also out of this 12th chapter of 1 Corinthians about the body, and that's 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 12. It says, "For as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ."
Yeah, and that's kind of the cool thing is that while there's many different members, there is one unifying component, and in this case, it's Jesus, Jesus Christ. That He is the person that pulls it all together, that makes it unified,
right,
even if it's not uniform.
Right, and expanding on like His mission and His gospel and His purpose, for the ultimate plan of salvation, the unity and the oneness that we're trying to highlight and draw attention to isn't so much about doing the same things, making us one and united. It's about whatever you're doing that for the same purpose, for the same reason, which is Christ.
Right. Yeah. And that's something that that we have a little bit of control over, to choose what we're going to be about. What are we going to make our purpose? What is my Andrew? What's my purpose?
Right. Because there are some things that make us like one and united that we don't have choice over, like being created in God's image. That's something we have in common. That's kind of a unifying factor that's predetermined, if you will.
God-given from the get-go. You don't.
Yeah.
But it is a thing that kind of pulls together all of humanity. Everybody has that image of God. We're all pre-assigned God's image.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that one of those things that can really pull us together as a church body is to point towards something like the mission and vision. That can give us something to point to say, this will be my purpose, and this is my chosen thing that I'm going to be about. That's kind of under the umbrella of what God would say is appropriate.
Yeah, I agree. And the gospel of Christ and the doctrine that is established is a unifying factor of the church. Mission and vision is a unifying factor. Ultimately, all being united in Christ, Him being the uniting factor. And He talks about this. Christ talks about this oneness that like He had with His Father, and He talks about that in John chapter 17, verse 22. That is the words of Jesus. And the glory which you gave me, I have given them, that they may be one, just as we are one. So he's talking about the oneness He has with the Father is a similar oneness He wants to have with like all of creation, all of mankind.
Which is really a high honor. It's pretty cool that Jesus would want that.
Yeah. So we want to be united, not necessarily by what we're doing, but more so why we're doing it, creating this oneness, why we're doing it also being to highlight and demonstrate Christ's love for us, through each other. That's really a unifying factor. Instead of saying, well, you're doing that over there and I'm doing this over here, and even creating tension, realizing that coming to the middle where like Christ's love is, that's where we want to have that oneness.
Yeah, and as we become centered on Christ's love, those differences become less significant and the tension goes away.
They kind of fade away, and we're able to ultimately perhaps see things differently and appreciate the differences that you have and appreciate the differences that I have, either in giftedness or personality or passion or your servant style, the way you exercise your gifts. There's a different appreciation that kind of can emerge from that too, knowing that we're kind of all on the same team, which is Christ's team, advancing that gospel and that mission.
Yeah, it's a really incredible understanding of oneness that we can have.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of For Your Journey. If you have any suggested questions or topics, you can find us on Facebook or Twitter. And once again, I'm Travis.
And I'm Andrew.
And this has been For Your Journey.